Wanna talk? So let's talk. Here. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk.
Good evening and welcome, my friends. It's Talk to Solomon. That's me, Stan Solomon, my co-host,
Chief Steve.
former Police Chief Steve Davis, and our guest of honor and an honorable man, Major General Jerry Curry, U.S. Army retired, and we appreciate the General spending time with us. General, I want to ask you about the release of illegal aliens by the Department of Homeland Security, claiming the reason they're doing it is because of sequester, but it turns out they released them long before sequester was going to take effect, and specifically the holding of illegal aliens was exempted from budget cuts, so they simply voluntarily did that, I guess with the hope that some of the illegals they are releasing will kill people or rape people or kidnap people or terrorize people, and they'll just say, see what the Republicans did to you. Your thoughts?
These folks are crazy to begin with, but the idea is that you release illegal aliens right in the middle of the mess that we've got, and do it at a time when it's going to financially cost you money because you're going to have to care for them, take care of them, and all that sort of stuff. And you go right down that line and do it. It doesn't make any sense at all, but that's the way this administration has. They don't seem to make sense, and they don't seem to care what they're doing to the American people. We've got the problem with the aliens, and the first thing is we've got to close the border, and you can do that overnight, by the way. But until that happens, we're going to have these people running around spending our money, committing crimes, and clogging the court system.
Well, we can go beyond that because every person coming in here illegally is not bent on doing more illegal things. Of course, coming in here illegally is illegal. They commit a crime, but many of them don't commit any crimes beyond that other than maybe stealing someone's identity so that they can get a job, but a lot of them work hard. I meet a lot of these people, and I know they're here illegally, and they're friendly, and they're nice, and they work hard, and they have cute kids, but they're using our resources in sending their kids to school, getting on our system. No one wants to talk about the fact that tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of illegals file tax returns that are totally fraudulent, and our government knowingly gives them checks for $10, $15, $20, $30, $40,000, knowing full well that the 7 kids or the 12 kids they're claiming either don't exist or possibly don't exist in this country, and we're not doing anything. Well, Chief, let me talk to you about that.
Well, you've hit the nail right on the head there. The very first thing that should happen is we need to cut off all of this money to all the illegal aliens, every single penny of it. So no welfare, no
food stamps,
no education, no nothing. Okay, and then also make sure that the employers are not allowed to hire illegal aliens so they can't get a paycheck. That's the first thing. And so then that would drive a lot of the illegal activity right there. But the story you're talking about with the government releasing these illegal aliens, first of all, they have a soft spot in their heart for illegal aliens because they're anti-Americans, I think. But what the left does is they feel that the ends justifies the means, and they're willing to lie, cheat, steal, or murder to get their way. We saw with Fast and Furious how they armed the illegal cartels down in Mexico with guns, hoping that they could bring that story back here, bring those guns back here, and take our guns away. That was the result there. They lied about that. That's actually a crime they committed about that. So for them to commit a crime and release aliens, illegal aliens, or whatever they're doing, they don't care about that. They just want the end product that they want to happen, regardless of the means and the method to get there.
General, let me ask you your thoughts on many in the Republican Party saying we need to change our position on illegals. We should give them a path to citizenship. We should allow, if you will, dramatically the nature of this country to change And then you have people like Farrakhan saying, well, just white folks don't want to be a minority, and they know if we open the borders that 100 million Mexicans and 200 million South Americans and a billion Africans and Europeans, Eastern Europeans will all, not to mention folks from Asia, will all make a beeline for America, and all of a sudden white folks will be just a small piece of the action.
I could care less about the white folks' business and the black folks and green folks and the in-between folks' business. The answer is these people committed a crime in coming to this country. I don't care what you call it, they are criminals. There is no way around that. They are criminals. They committed crimes, and so when they come into this country and they suddenly want all of this wonderful thoughtfulness, this kindness, this consideration and all because of I was brought here. The answer is I don't care how you were brought here. I don't care how you got here. You didn't come legally, you're illegal, and therefore we're going to handle you as a criminal.
And to add to that, I believe that illegal aliens, as soon as they're identified, should be not allowed to vote in this country ever for the rest of their lives.
Good idea.
Now, I have given thought to this, and again, saying things when you don't put a face with it is easier than saying things when you do put a face with it, and I acknowledge that. But I believe if we would put in place the following program, that we're going to give everyone who's in this country illegally 3 months to come forward and identify themselves. And if they do that, we will give them an additional 3 months to settle their affairs, and we will make sure that they are treated fairly, so there's not someone taking advantage or ripping them off for what they have, whether it's property, real estate, or whatever else they might have. So we will make them whole for what legitimately is theirs. And then we will help them in a comfortable way to get back to their country of origin, barring where they're coming from some country where they would actually be in danger of being imprisoned or killed, and then we would say to the American people, anyone who does not self-identify within that 3-month period of time, we will give you a quote-unquote an award, a bounty, for not touching them, not hurting them, not in any way do anything other than just identifying them. Because I think we would find them all quickly identified. And then those who didn't voluntarily identify themselves, they would simply be, quote-unquote, arrested and deported. All those that identify themselves, they would have a longer process to make sure they're made whole, that they could then go home, and they could get in line with everyone else who's in line to try and come back. Not those who didn't voluntarily identify themselves, because they would never be allowed back in, but the ones who voluntarily could get in line in the back of the line, but they could get in line. Now, if we would do that, everything could be done in a way that is humane and fair and reasonable, and we could work with the countries, primarily Mexico, where probably 70% of all illegals come from, to make sure. Now, again, if some woman were coming from China because they wanted to kill her unborn child, I'm going to make an exception for that woman. If someone was coming from Eastern Europe or Russia because they were in danger of being put in jail for political reasons, all those are things that we should talk about. But I think that we could solve this problem, and of course secure our borders, as you said, which we could do in a very short period of time if we really wanted to do it. And then
without question. I have no trouble with any of that, by the way. It's very close to what Rubio is talking about. It makes good sense to me. The people committed the crime. I have no problem with us, one, saying you have to be self-identified. If we catch you, you're going to be in deep trouble. Let them self-identify themselves, yes. Give them a period of time to get their affairs in order. Give them a chance we will help you get out of the country, and they can start the citizenship process if that's what they really want. Some people don't want that, but if they really want citizenship, they can start the process.
Now, I think that we should say if you're from certain countries, Muslim countries come to mind, we don't want you back. We don't want you here. I think we should not allow any people from these terror-supporting nations to come to America. Zero, none.
Yeah, nada. I agree with that.
Chief?
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. What we're supposed to do is protect American interests. That's our mission in this life and in this world. Most of us have taken an oath, I know the General has, to protect this country from enemies, foreign and domestic. So that's what we're supposed to do, protect American interests.
All right, let's go to some moves. And, of course, everyone knows in Chicago, there are incredible stories. Almost 600 people were murdered last year. They're on a pace to beat that already this year. A 72-year-old man going for dialysis treatment was shot to death, robbed and shot to death, less than a block from his house trying to get on a bus to go find dialysis treatment. We have the strictest gun controls are where the most criminal acts take place, and those without gun control are where the fewest. As I said, if everyone on a plane was armed, no one would try and take over that plane. And we have a situation where now in Chicago, a member of the legislature there is suggesting that they outlaw what they call Saturday night specials, but what they are is modestly priced guns. Well, what does that mean? It means that only well-to-do people and thieves would have guns, and modest income people wouldn't be able to afford one, right, General?
If you want to stop people from killing people, you have to change more than the make and the caliber of the gun or the size of its ammo clip. You have to change the culture. That's the problem. And you talked about Chicago. Chicago is mostly black-on-black crime. And the assassination of Martin Luther King was the beginning of the disintegration of the black family. And no one, white or black or in between green, orange, stepped up to fill the gap left by his departure, unfortunately. And so his dream of a seamless America, seamless between white, seamless between black, and that he had died with him, unfortunately. And America hasn't been the same since. We need some leadership at the very top level to go back and to help solve these problems. We are not going to get it from the guy who's currently in the White House.
Well, that goes without saying, but let's go back to your point about Dr. King. Dr. King was not a perfect person. None of us are either.
We aren't?
I'm sorry?
You mean I'm not?
I checked with your family, and I'm sorry to tell you, no. But the reality is this, that what he spoke for, what he worked for, what he stood for was not to treat one group differently or better than another, but to treat all people based on the content of their character. Now, if you think of that statement, if I know that you have espoused killing people, if I know that you've espoused sexually taking advantage of children, if I know that you espouse killing unborn babies, that's what your character is.
Yep.
But somehow we're not supposed to, I'm always bemused, and I have other words, most of them are profane, by people who say, well, Solomon, you're a racist because you want to hold it against someone if they're suggesting burning down the city. I said, really? Why does that make me a racist? They said, because only black folks burn down the city. I said, well, I'll be damned. I didn't know that. Is that in a gene someplace? No. Bad people do bad things.
Yep.
Whatever they're whatever. And content of character, no one's really talking about that anymore. I think that should be the focus.
That is the number one thing if you're going to sort out the problems that we're having, the culture of violence problems that we're having in our communities today. People need to know what the standards are. They need to know what it is they're supposed to live up to and what they're not supposed to live down to. And so until that happens, until you get people talking about that at every level all the time, until that happens, we're going to continue to go through this culture of violence mess.
There's a story that just came out today about a woman who was arrested. And she was arrested because her children were locked in her car. Now, it wasn't too cold, too hot, that type of thing. She was in a bar drinking. And her comment was, my kids are all right. And my response would have been, no thanks to you. But when you have people that don't see a problem in doing that, now you're talking about character, are you not?
Absolutely. You remember I've told you the story many times about growing up in Western Pennsylvania, and in every schoolroom on the wall was the Ten Commandments. And sometime during the day or the week, that teacher would talk us through those. Now, this one maybe today, or maybe something happened that applied, and she would bring out why it applied and why. But the point was, she was setting standards for us, and we learned her standards. And when I left that school in the 8th grade, I could recite the Ten Commandments to you, by the way. But I knew exactly what society expected of me, and I knew exactly what I was supposed to contribute.
Wow. Here's a story. This is out of Canada, but it's typical. A family is outraged that their 13-year-old son brought home a flip book from school. The flip book showed a woman putting a condom on a man prior to the two of them engaging in intercourse. Now, the group that handed out this was a gay group, a gay activist group. I don't know if they have the name, but I think they did. And the book was titled "Put on Something Sexy," and it was put out by AIDS Vancouver Island, a pro-homosexual group. Now, somehow we're not supposed to say this, but I'm going to say it because I can't get in any more trouble I'm already in. I believe that homosexuality is evil, harmful, destructive of any individual, any family, any community, any country, or any world. And that as you promote that, you're promoting the decline and the destruction of society.
Oh, you got it absolutely right. You know, when I came up in the black community, it was the black clergy and the black male members, the fathers, that set the standards for that community. And you digress one of those standards, you get your head knocked off and handed to you on a platter. That was what we had that's what we had in growing up that helped us stay on the straight and narrow. And by goodness, when I left, I still found myself many years later, every once in a while I would think of some lesson that they had taught me in that process. And I thanked God for them.
Chief?
Well, the General's made a lot of great comments tonight. I want to review a couple of them. He mentioned two words earlier that are very important: leadership and control. So the left wants to control everything. But in this case, and the General mentioned the Ten Commandments in his school, that school should be teaching abstinence will prevent HIV, not condoms. That's a much better choice to have anyway. But also, I want to go back to Dr. Martin Luther King for a moment and talk about this leadership and control. Dr. Martin Luther King was a Republican. But the Republican Party...
So was his dad.
So was his father, all their lives. But the Republican Party has let the Democrats steal Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and distort his message. Instead of taking him out and keep making him a champion for the message for the Republican Party, which you mentioned, Stan, is base people on the content of their character, not their color of their skin. But the Republicans, without a backbone, without any leadership, have let the Democrats steal Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and distort his message. So the General's absolutely right. We need leadership. But now saying that, what I just said, also we're never going to get leaders that walk on water. They're going to have some kind of flaws. What we have to do is we find people on our side, with our tune. We must support them, even though they're not perfect.
By the way, Dr. Martin Luther King's mother was murdered in church by a Muslim person who hated Christians. You knew that, didn't you, General?
No, I did not know that at all. Was that before the "I Have a Dream" speech?
Oh, way before.
Okay.
Way before. But she was murdered in church by a Muslim who wanted to murder more people. But you know something? Many people say, why don't we get massacres? Why don't we get these school massacres in inner city schools? I'll tell you the answer. Black children do not just let themselves be victimized.
Not only that, they're carrying.
I wasn't going to say that. See, I'm sensitive. But the fact is, it's like going to a cop bar to try and rob it. You go to an inner city school, you're going to end up with what they call a desk tonsillectomy. Someone will shove the desk right down your throat because they're not going to play. Black children, stereotypically, there are many variations, are not taught to simply allow themselves to be kicked around. Where many white children, let's talk about Sandy Hook, of course they were babies, but many white children, especially among the higher income, are taught, oh my, you don't get your hands dirty, you don't get physical, you take a time out. I was taught, make sure that they take time out to recover after you do what you have to do to deal with what you have to deal with. And I'll tell the story quick, I only have a minute. My sister was walking to school. Some pervert decided to expose himself. She was in the whatever, 4th grade, 3rd grade. My brother and I went looking for the pervert, and we found him. We didn't read him his rights. We didn't call his attorney. And we didn't apply any tourniquets. He had nothing left to expose to any future child. That's the way we were taught.
I got to tell you, I enjoy that story. But it reminds me also of another short one, and I won't be long. And that is, where are the safest schools in terms of terrorist attacks and activity? Where are they in the world? The answer is in Israel. And every teacher has the option of being a license to carry if she wants to or he wants to. They have check areas where they check people into the school, out to the school. Everybody has a picture ID that they show when they come to school. So you have this kind of a thing going on, and in addition to that, you have little armed posses sort of that are assigned to each school. And that is what keeps them safe. And it's just like you're saying about the inner city school. Those folks have so many weapons that if you take them on, you're going to pay for it.
And that's what you should do if you are that type of a person. General, thank you so much. God bless you. Appreciate your giving us some of your valuable time and your wisdom, and we look forward to having you back in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Chief. Bye-bye.
You too, General.
I'm chopped liver? You didn't say goodbye to me?
Goodbye, Stan.
All right. Thank you, General. Good night, America.